Hello, welcome to my video and YouTube channel. And today I'm going to talk about nobody wants to work anymore. I'm curious to know what you think about this subject. I mean, there's many reasons why people don't want to work, because they're retired early or the pay or probably some made up propaganda where these business owners says, "Oh, we need more people to work because the labor force has been decreasing by this much every year." And that's where we have to really understand the data and what's going on, or to see really if it's really true that nobody doesn't want to work anymore, which I don't find that true. The wages has to play a huge factor. But then again, we need to come to understand of what's the difference of entry level position salary and what you're getting at that point to what you're planning to get down the line. Now, if we're saying that an entry level position should get $100,000 right off the bat, then no, I I think that's really unrealistic. I'm just saying, and you have to prove yourself to the company in order to get for them to pay you more. But let's get to the video.
It's a classic gripe of out-of-touch corporate executives hiring minimum wage workers or the trust fund baby who is angry that their gym is busy in the middle of the day. Nobody wants to work anymore. Now, I really hate to say this, but by looking at the numbers, they might have a point. Labor force participation is approaching generational lows even after the pandemic, while labor force participation amongst men specifically is the lowest it has ever been. These declines have been happening at the same time that unemployment is theoretically quite low, which, if the economists are to be believed, means it should to get a job, right?
Right.
Well, not quite. And these numbers are confusing at best or downright misleading at worst.
Is people just don't want to go to
There
work.
was a poll I read a long time ago. Only like 18% of Americans feel engaged when they're at work.
The signs are everywhere. Businesses, especially restaurants, need employees and they need them
Dude,
now.
less than 20% of the country likes their fucking job.
Okay, so there are two general schools that people fall into when they see that nobody wants to work anymore. The first group are wealthy executives, business owners, or just people who have always worked incredibly hard who don't like that jobs are going unfilled. So they blame it on lazy young people who would rather sit around all day smoking cones and watching skibbity toilets. The second school of thought agrees that yes, people don't want to work. They don't want to work demeaning jobs where they won't get paid enough to support a decent quality of life.
And I believe this is what I believe 100% why people not working, because what this gentleman just said right here, because the wages doesn't equal to a better quality of life. And I know nowadays these companies are about making profit and they're going to do whatever they can to do that. And I'm sorry, it's hard to control that. It really is. But I know there's a way we can fight back, but I think it's going to be kind of hard at the end of the day. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you think that we should fight back to have better wages, or just look somewhere else?
It's nice when two groups who are so different can agree on something. So really, the only thing left is to work out why people don't want to work. Now, in most cases, the jobs that nobody wants to work fall into one of three categories. The first are jobs that are just paying well below market rates given the experience or the location required. Businesses aren't going to be able to fill a full-stack senior development role in Silicon Valley for $50,000 a year plus equity in their questionable pre-seed startup. But there are still plenty that try. Even entry-level jobs that pay minimum wage in very high cost of living areas are going to be much harder to fill in a city where even finance bros are living in shared housing. Now, hot take alert.
Yes, that is true. I live in one of them, and it's tough.
But just like there are no shortage of crappy businesses and managers that expect to pay workers nothing for world-class skills and experience, there are lots of workers who expect world-class pay with little or no marketable expertise. One of the most insightful pieces of data on this issue is this recent survey right here. It asked a selection of Americans what they considered to be the minimum salary they would need.
Yeah, which is crazy for Gen Z with the $587,000, which I understand their standpoint because they're looking at it from social media and what they see on social media and think everyone's living that life. But reality, that's not really the case. So I personally think social media plays a huge role on how we think and how others live in their life, which is not really true, because usually it's a highlight film and it's for show. And that's why I'm not really a big proponent of social media, even though I'm doing social media to help you guys out and to have a better understanding and to join the conversation in the community. I know your opinions may be different than mine, which is fine, because I would love to hear your opinions. It helps me to grow. It helps everyone else to grow here. But I think that's a little bit too much. And I know you can have a good quality life under $100,000 salary. And I know because there's other options nowadays.
Need to be financially successful. Now, most of the responses to these numbers have been laughing at the Gen Zs just entering the workforce who think that almost $600,000 a year is a realistic salary goal. Because for most people, it just isn't. Unless you are in a few very specific career paths, there are basically no jobs that pay this money. And even then, you need an insane amount of luck to get those opportunities.
Yeah.
Now, you can blame this on young people who don't really know how the world works yet, or social media that makes it look like every hustle bro is flying private. But it's all distracting from a more interesting data point. The average boomer thinks financial success is achieved with a salary of just under $100,000.
Which in some places you can still get away with that, yes. But if you're living in certain cities like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, like 100K is not going to get you by. I'm sorry, it's just not. So there has to be a balance to it.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is still almost double the median national salary. But in most major cities where people can actually find jobs that pay this much, $100,000 certainly doesn't afford a lifestyle of financial success. There is simply a massive gap in expectations between the generations looking for their first jobs and the group responsible for giving out most of them. The second type of job that nobody wants to work are in workplaces that push their staff, demand unreasonable overtime, or have management that are needlessly abusive. This happens in a shocking amount of businesses across the country. And even if you are lucky enough to avoid a boss that thinks shouting is an effective motivation tool, you have probably worked some overtime out of fear.
It's very common in the corporate world and the manufacturing warehouse roles. And I know it just is what it is. And there's really nothing really to talk about it. But at that time, that's the place where you show your worth to the company to order for them to pay you more. I mean, that's just how it is, unfortunately.
According to a 2023 workplace survey, the average full-time worker across the country studied is now putting in an average of 9.2 hours of unpaid overtime. These jobs often don't have much trouble finding people to start, but they do struggle with high staff turnover. The third are simply jobs that never actually existed. You probably all know about ghost jobs by now, but even if you really do want to work, there is a good chance that most of your applications are just going to build out a workforce database, not to actually be considered for employment. Now, whatever the specific reason, the results are the same. Less people end up working. But aside from settling some beef between entitled Zoomers and some out-of-touch boomers, this data all reveals something more concerning about work in the current economy. It's not that people don't want to work anymore. They simply can't afford to. So it's time to learn how money works to find out what's really behind the worst phrase in the workplace.
I agree. I think we've come to the point where you're going to need some money to do some work. And I know it didn't used to be that way, but it's just now it is. Let me know. Comment down below. Have you actually had a job where you need money to work? Let me know in the comments.
This week's video is sponsored by MyHeritage. Ever wondered what remarkable stories are hidden in your family history? MyHeritage is the world's leading distill. Its whole new is transformed touch of personal census data, range of framing language. Nobody wants to work. Amazed by what you uncover. Yeah.
Because nowadays you need to have 2 incomes to work in these day of time, and it's not like our grandparents' era where one income could survive everything and support a life. But we're not in those times anymore. And I'm just going to end the video right here. And if you want to watch the rest of the video, I have the link down below. Also, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button and the like button. And if you want to watch this next video where I go over this financial advisor and if I agree with this advice or not, it's going to be up here.